Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and welcome to Storytime with Wolf. I am your host, the narrator, Wolf with Attitude. This is the continuing of the history of the Mafia in America, since the early years of the mob in the United States, mostly the five families of New York: Gambino, Lucchese, Bonanno, Genovese, Colombo, and as well as other mob influence across the United States. However, it was the five that controlled all throughout the United States. New York City was the ideal settlement for underground activities, with the largest population in America, as well as the largest seaport for shipments in and out of the U.S. And now, the history of the mob in America continues. The organizations, such as Lucchese, profits was always shared with the soldiers or associates. Capo, or captain, it was shown a sign of respect, whether the business was illegal or legal, without grabbing attention from any law enforcement. In underground business, only a made man from the Lucchese and other borgata, or families, could be introduced to one another as in amico nostro, in translation, a friend of ours, or just a friend. This was always used as caution when there was an associate during a meeting, and he was not a made man, and no mafia secrets was ever mentioned if an associate or soldier was in the presence. The word mafia itself was banished from the group's vocabulary, even in private conversation, cause it could be used as evidence at trials if overheard by prosecution witnesses, or from electronic eavesdroppings used by detectives. If an organization name had to be mentioned, the more innocent sounding Cosa Nostra or thing were used. Despite any knowledge a recruit might understand, during initiation, he was still instructed on what choice words to use around the family's higher commands. It was the boss, or patriarch, of the family that decided what the family would engage in. A boss would see himself as the imperial Caesar. Through the patriarch, he decided who lived and who died. Murder inside the family, for internal reasons, or any elimination outside the borgata, could only be approved by the boss of the family. During an induction, the underboss or second in command would attend, who assisted in running the borgata day-to-day business. Also, in attendance, would be the consigliere, or counselor, the advisor on family business. The consigliere was sort of like a referee between his borgata and other families. At the Lucchese induction, the identity of the four other bosses, Genovese, Gambino, Bonanno, Colombo, were disclosed to the new soldier. This confidential information, that if another family boss was encountered, the soldier should still show the other bosses the utmost respect. All of the New York families used the same ceremonial toccata, the Italian word for tie-in. It demonstrated the solidarity among the families and their secret organization. All witnesses and new inducted had the clasp hands. This is what the boss declared as the unbreakable knot, a brotherhood. When it was time for Alfonso D'Arco to have his big day, was in August 23, 1982, when he was instructed to get dressed. He knew the code, that means he was going somewhere, and dressed meant a respectable suit. He was picked up by the capo in a designated area, a street corner, in Manhattan's Little Italy section, in the same way how Tony Setturo was picked up. Alfonso D'Arco was driven into a modest house in the Bronx. Four others with him sat in another room of this modest house, waiting to be summoned in the one room. And D'Arco's turn happened. It was in the kitchen. He too was introduced to Tony Corallo, as well as other members of the administration. They all stood around the kitchen table. As one of the men looked at Alfonso, he said, "Do you know why you are here?" D'Arco replied, whether lie or not a lie, "No. This was to make sure no wiretapping into the family secret." His answer was no. The man continued to D'Arco, "You will be a part of this family," followed with the question, If you were asked to kill somebody, would you do it? D'Arco nodded his head, without saying a word. The respect was given. Same part of the ritual, where needle was stuck into his trigger finger, as well as the saint's picture, burned in his hand. Another man went around to D'Arco. He placed a gun and a knife on the table, and quote, "You live by the gun and knife, and you die by the gun and knife. If you betray anyone in this room." The man spoke in a quiet tone. D'Arco repeated the holy oath of the mob. Quote, "If I betray my friends and my family, may my soul burn in hell, like this saint." When the recruit was finished, Tony Corallo himself rose up and asked everyone to, in Italian, toccata, to tie up, holding hands. La fata, questo familia, se no aperte. Translation meaning, anything about this family are open. Corallo then continued his new recruits on the basics, making sure that what Boss Corallo said was locked in D'Arco's memory. The boss replied, "We were told not to deal in drugs, narcotics, counterfeit money, or stolen stocks and bonds. To respect the family. Never to fool around with other family members' wives or daughters. If any dispute came about that couldn't be resolved, you must go to your captain. You never put your hands on another family member. Always show yourself to be respectful at all times. When your captain calls, no matter what time of the day, you answer him right away. You have to respond right away to your captain. Your Borgata family comes even before your own personal family. And never discuss the inside of our Borgata with other families or Borgatas. If any of the rules were broken, that would mean death." Another unbreakable rule was, police or any law enforcement could never be whacked or killed. Whatever happened here tonight is never to be talked about, Corallo warned, and replied in Italian, "La fata, questo familia, se no chiuso." Translation: the affairs of this family is now closed. The event ended with a non-alcoholic drink, a saluto, with some coffee and small snacks. Then the mobsters would move on from each other into small groups. And with that being said, this concludes this episode of Storytime with Wolf and the history of the mob in America. I am your host, Wolf. And this is the Wolf with Attitude 3% channel. There will be more to come in this series about the history of the Mafia in the United States. So until then, as always, peace out, Goombas.
My house, my rule. Welcome to hell.